I heard some stuff from Jeff about that. Yes, not about espresso machines. The question is, who is Sombra? And I thought maybe we would get the answer from Sombra herself.
Who is Sombra? To the system, she's nobody. She doesn't exist. No one remembers the girl. There were 1,000 children like her after the war. But none of them could hack like she could. And she learned that people were just as easily manipulated. Now she understood how the world worked. Information is power. So she kept hacking. Politicians, corporations, governments. It was an addiction. But for the first time, someone noticed her. When your hardware's obsolete, it's time to upgrade. The girl was gone, and Sombra was born. Now, I'm ready. I'll find out who really runs the world. I'll find their weaknesses and how to exploit them. And when I do, I'll be the one pulling the strings. Who is Sombra? You'll never know. Adios.
So, Sombra is one of the world's most notorious hackers and a master infiltrator. But how did the girl become Sombra? Well, the answer to that question, we have to look back to where she came from. Sombra was born 30 years ago during what the Mexicans refer to as La Medianoche, thanks to my 2 years of high school Spanish for that pronunciation. So, La Medianoche is the phrase that they use in Mexico to describe the Omnic crisis and the time that followed that. So for a quick recap of the Omnic crisis, it is an event that took place across the world where robot populations rebelled against their human controllers. And so, just keep that in mind next time you're plugging in your Roomba. But anyways, Mexico really suffered a lot at the hands of the Omnics and the Omnic crisis. The war destroyed much of the country's infrastructure. It resulted in a massive loss of life that created thousands of orphans like Sombra. So in this environment, Sombra had to do whatever she could to survive. Luckily, she had an ability. She was fantastic with computers. She could hack anything, and she could break into systems. So she used these abilities to, steal money to get by, to manipulate the people who were trying to control her, and to make a life for herself. Now, if you have abilities like that, you're bound to be of interest to people. And a young Sombra was taken in by the Los Muertos organization. Los Muertos is an interesting group in the Overwatch lore. You may remember them from the Soldier 76 animated short Hero. They claim to be kind of revolutionaries fighting for people who were left behind during the rebuilding of Mexico after the war. Whether or not that's really what they're up to, because they're also engaged in a lot of other kind of shady activities, is kind of up to you to decide. But they took in a young Sombra, and she basically honed her hacking abilities, working for them and helping them in their campaign against the Mexican government. And as a little sneak peek here, I can show you, this is one of Sombra's legendary skins. So this is what a young Sombra would have looked like as a member of Los Muertos. So as a member of Los Muertos, Sombra basically, she was hacking the Mexican government, and she just kept going deeper and deeper into the world and executing more and more audacious hacks. And it wasn't just that she was good at it, it's actually something in her personality, like she wants to do it. She has this thing where if there's a mystery, she wants to solve it. If there's a lock, she wants to break it. And so she would investigate, corporations, the government, famous people. And in fact, Sombra gave me a little hint today that a very important person in the Overwatch universe's birthday is today. And that's Mr. Jeff Kaplan here, so I think happy birthday, Jeff. So Sombra, while investigating the Mexican government, she stumbled upon something. she found a conspiracy, or what she believed to be a conspiracy, that was at the heart of a lot of the events that were taking place in the Overwatch universe. And obviously, with her curiosity, she wanted to know more about this. So she started investigating it. But the thing was, Sombra can be a little overconfident, and she wasn't ready, and the conspiracy struck back. They found out who she was, and they went after her. Overnight, she had to go underground. She had to delete every trace of her existence and basically become a ghost. She spent years during this time. She was repairing herself, getting ready to strike back against that conspiracy. So, she got these upgrades done to her, which you can see in her awesome art. She basically became the computer. She doesn't need a computer to hack anymore. She has all sorts of upgrades. And with that, she became a much more capable hacker than she ever was, and that attracted new suitors. And in this case, it was the Talon organization, who could totally make use of one of the world's best hackers. And so, as a member of Talon, she executed even more audacious hacks. I know, even more. She struck against corporations like Lumerico, Volsky Industries, as you saw in the animated short this morning. And basically, while she's currently in league with Talon, she's a really interesting character because she's really in it for herself. She wants to find out this conspiracy. She wants the power of this conspiracy for herself. And I think that it's something we'll see as we go throughout the story, what exactly Sombra's endgame is. And I guess I'd finish up by saying one thing that I think is really interesting about Sombra is, we talk a lot about characters who have, various motivations, and, they're sort of gray. Are they good? Are they evil? What do they really want? And I think Sombra's a perfect example of that. She's an awesome, unreliable narrator, perhaps the most unreliable narrator we have. But now I'd like to turn it over to a very reliable narrator, Mr. Arnold Singh.
Wow. Thanks, Mike.
Oh, I missed a slide.
Everyone pay real close attention to this one, because there might be some hidden clues, maybe. Right. So I'm here to talk about some of the art behind Sombra. This is the awesome key art by John Polidora. But one of the things I really like showing when we talk about new heroes, and just all the Overwatch heroes, is some of the kind of the original art that kind of spawned the journey that led to the final design. With Sombra, we actually started working on her a long time ago, back way before even like Hanzo and Genji. We had this idea, I think Jeff had an idea called the Omni Blade, which was like this throwing dagger, throwing star hero. And we did a sketch of her, and we thought it was really cool. Like, she had all these like throwing knives, as you can see in the image there. We tried a couple of flavors where she had a more of a Mexican theme, and that's where we came up with the name Sombra. As you can see, she's kind of this very agile, very stealthy hero. But they ended up stepping on some of the, or her abilities ended up going to some of more well-known Shimano brother heroes, right?
Yeah. I mean, Hanzo ended up. She used to have this ability to throw. There you go. He used to have this ability to throw a dagger, and it would reveal people. And you guys know that now as Hanzo's sonar arrow. So she was real early on, and she never really got past the paper design stage. Actually, she was just sort of, one up and coming one that we're going to do. But once we started getting into the ninjas, they couldn't help but pillage some of those ideas and use them there.
Yeah, the Shimano Bros spoils everyone's fun.
I don't know about that.
But so we ended up shelving that idea. But then there was a new idea that you guys had that was like a stealth hacker. So we thought that idea of hacking and stealth felt like it was in sync with that Sombra concept that we did early on. So we took that idea with some of the information now that we know from the abilities, like she can stealth, she can hack, and tried to fit that idea of this Sombra character around that. And this is a new concept that we came up with that kind of fits into that. You can see kind of clues of how her suit kind of looks like her final design now, and those hacking tendrils that are also a very prominent part of her look. One of the things that you'll notice different from this design, from her current design, is that she has a hood and she has a very longer coat. And you might actually even recognize the silhouette of this image. We were doing this development of Sombra at the same time as we were doing one of our other heroes, Ana. And Ana was also a hero that had a silhouette that used a hood and a longer jacket. So we felt like, because their silhouettes started getting very similar, we decided to steer Sombra a little bit further away from that, and that ended up with our concept for Sombra today. So this is the final concept of Sombra. by Ben Zhang. Ben did basically all of the concept art for Sombra, developed all the abilities and look for her. Again, like you can see, she still has that stealth suit, the thermoptic camo suit, and also her hacking tendrils. And the hacking tendrils was one of it was a very cool, very cyberpunky aesthetic that the look we were really excited about, but we were kind of uncertain how it would work with gameplay. But then Ben did some very cool motion concepts, and here's an example of how we kind of developed the look of the hacking tendrils in a first-person kind of concept, and also a look at the concept for Sombra's thermoptic camo, which is an ability that allows her to be stealth and totally unseen to the enemy, but allies still need to see her. So we had to come up with a look that allies could see you, but you still looked stealth. So that's where you see on the right side there. In addition to these concepts, we also developed Sombra's kit even further. We knew that she'd be hacking a lot with her left hand. And here's an example of some of the more detailed concepts we do of her kind of hacking hand and how all those details work together. And we also have the concept of her translocator, which some of you guys might recognize from the cinematic we just showed, and actually has a very familiar shape to it.
Yeah, let's just say that Winston and Tracer are not big fans of Sombra's work.
She hacks everything. Sombra also has the machine pistol, which Jeff will talk a little bit more about on the gameplay side, but on the art side, we're really excited to have this type of weapon because the SMG kind of machine pistol look resonated a lot with the kind of cyberpunk theme, and also worked really well gameplay-wise. One of the things, very interesting things we tried with the machine pistol was to get the ammo counter to have a very specific look to it. You know, early on we tried like a binary counter, which you see on the bottom right there, but it got a little bit busy and a little bit confusing, so we ended up with like a hexadecimal counter. And I'm not a programmer, so I have no idea what it means, but I think it looks really cool, and it kind of speaks to our hacker theme. So in addition to these concepts, with new heroes, we always do motion studies, movement studies. And what these help us to do is kind of inform the animators and all the other developers on how the character moves, the kinds of poses they strike when they do their abilities. For example, here's Sombra kind of running around with her machine pistol, getting ready for EMP. So some of those poses are really important in developing the movement suite of the hero. And as kind of Mike teased earlier, the Los Muertos skin for Sombra, a concept by John Polidora. Here's a sneak peek for Sombra's other legendary skin, the cyberspace skin. This one's by Chang'e Li, and we love the cyberpunk aesthetic so much we wanted to double down on it and show an alternate take on how Sombra might look like in the Overwatch universe. So that's just a little bit of the art behind Sombra. So here to talk about more of her abilities is Jeff Goodman.
All right, so let's talk about some of her gameplay. So as Aaron and Mike showed you guys sort of, or talked about a lot of the background of the story and the background of the art and how we got to where we are, I can let you guys know about sort of the background of her gameplay. As Aaron mentioned, she kind of started as that super fast. She had like double jump and can throw knives really fast. And the original, originally we were working on Genji actually, as he mentioned, we were working on both the Shimada brothers at the same time. And Genji's original design was the super kind of slow stealth, stealth kind of backstabber who would like stealth up behind you and just one-shot you. It's like that's sort of what everyone expects. It's not really that fun, as it turns out. We got a lot of interesting feedback from people internally. It was like, all right, well maybe we need to go another direction here. So we sort of decided that another really cool fantasy for Genji would be what we sort of had originally planned for Sombra, really fast, could get in, get out, throwing projectiles, things like that, and it worked out really well for him. So it sort of ended up shelving the concept of Sombra for a while, but we really liked the concept and some of the original abilities still, so we sort of knew we would want to come back to it at some point. And especially we know that like stealth is a really fun mechanic. A lot of people really like it in games, so we wanted to try to revisit it, even though it didn't work out the first time we tried it. So we sort of built her with the idea that, well, if we're going to start with a stealth character and we don't want her to be terrible to play against, what does that mean? So we thought, well, the biggest thing, she's not going to be as lethal as a Reaper up close or a Tracer up close or something. She can't have that, but she can have other tools that an infiltrator type character would love to have. So I'll show you guys exactly what her kit and break it down here for you guys. So she has this machine pistol. Pretty basic weapon. It's sort of similar to Tracer's weapons in a way. The big difference is it doesn't do as much damage like in a really short window. Like Tracer can blink up on you and unload her magazine really fast and get away. Sombra's got a giant magazine. She can actually hold down the button for quite a while. So in a way she can kind of, when she's back infiltrating the enemy lines back behind people, she can poke at people and try to take out people who are low health and get away. She's extremely evasive. Her alternate fire is the ability to hack, of course. Wouldn't be a very good hacker if she couldn't hack anything. So first thing she can do, she can hack players. She can hack a couple different things. She can hack players, health pack, as you can see here, and she can hack Torbjorn turrets as well. If you hack a player, it disables their abilities for a little while. It doesn't disable their weapon, but it disables their abilities. It's like a silence for those of you guys who have played a lot of other games and stuff. So we haven't done that kind of thing before. It's interesting because it's kind of asymmetric. Like if you hack 76, it's not super amazing, but if you hack Reinhardt, it's devastating, right? So picking your targets and knowing the timing of when to hack and who to hack is really important for her. If you hack a health pack, as you see there, she gets her little hack symbol above it, and you're sort of locking up that health pack for your team, so the enemy team can't pick it up anymore, and it lasts quite a while, so she can go around the map and sort of lay the groundwork for your team while you're behind the enemy lines. It also makes the respawn much, much faster, and she actually gets heal credit for it, which is kind of awesome. I've gotten like silver medal before healing with her. It's awesome. If you can hack a Torbjorn turret, it doesn't destroy it or convert it or anything. It stuns it for quite a while. So if it's shooting somebody and you get back there and you can hack it, your team can run in and you don't have to worry about the turret anymore. It's going to be shut down. It's really good. I know that a lot of people don't like Torbjorn, so there you go. Her first ability is called Thermoptic Camo. It's a stealth ability, as you might expect. You've probably seen it a bunch of times now in all these videos. It makes you completely invisible to the enemy. That's the question you sort of get real early often, is can you see a shimmer or anything like that? No, you don't see anything. When she's there, she's completely gone. Your team can see her all the time, which is what you see in this video. That's what she looks like to your team. If you take damage at all during this, it breaks you out, so you don't want to just storm into the front lines and into the choke points when Junkrat spamming his bombs, something like that. It's not going to end well for you. But she is about infiltration, so then you're thinking, well, if I can't stealth the choke, how do I get there? And that brings me to the next ability, which is the translocator. This ability is almost more marquee than stealth. This ability is extremely flexible. You can throw it like a grenade. You can throw it really far, actually, and it will stick to the ground. And it lasts for, I think, 15 seconds right now. It's quite a long time. And at any time later, within that 15-second window, you can hit the button and instantly teleport to that location. So obviously, you can use it, just throw it over a wall and teleport to it, because you can teleport to it when it's in the air, too. So that's super fast. But the other thing you can do is once you're already behind enemy lines and kind of messing with people who are hacking health packs, you can throw it somewhere safe where they don't even know where it is and go try to shoot people or hack things or be aggressive, and then you always have that escape window, almost like a Tracer, and escape back to that. And the cooldown's really short, so you always want to have your backup plan placed where you want it. These two abilities combined, the stealth and the translocator, make her extremely hard to catch and hard to pin down. Her ultimate ability is called EMP. It's this, you guys have seen this in some of the videos, it's like a giant explosion. It doesn't actually do any raw damage, though. First thing it does is it applies hack to everybody. So what her normal alternate fire does, we can hack everything. You can see that even the turret there, it'll shut that down, so it hacks all the players and everything. So it's like a really fast way, because normally the hack is a sort of channeled beam attack, so you can just instantly hit everybody with that and silence everybody, right? They can't use any of their abilities. But also, if you notice in this video, Reinhardt has a shield up and it destroys that. So the other thing it does is destroys all barriers and all shields. So that means, obviously, it's devastating to somebody like Reinhardt, but also characters like Zarya or Zenyatta that have shields, it actually kind of does do damage to them because it takes a chunk of their health out, which is represented by shields for those characters. Also, it's amazing versus Lucio's ult, obviously, because it's just like this big shield buffer, and she just takes it all out if you time that right. So that's it. She has one other ability, which is her passive ability, called Opportunist. This ability just is on all the time. It's passive. She automatically can detect enemies through walls that are less than half health. So she's not necessarily super good at just like Tracer running up and just killing somebody, but if you're low health, you know that she's looking at you and she can see you, and then you run for that health pack, and the health pack's hacked, and it's like a horror movie. You're just like, oh god, she's got to be here. It's super fun to play with this ability, especially. So that's sort of just a breakdown of like her abilities one by one. We have actually a video to show you kind of what it all looks like when it's put together.
Unauthorized person detected.
If you hold the information, you hold all the cards. Hack complete. They're over here!
Drop the beat!
EMP activated. Bet you didn't see that coming. Hacking the turret.
I need healing.
Back into the shadows. Adios.